StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, get a huge dose of personal initiative. That's the go-getter energy that moves all of us, including you, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one philosophy, one book, one show. That is known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is why you need to master something in your life. Especially those of you, this is especially made for those of you who want to stand out in the marketplace. If you're in marketing, you're building a brand, you want to get into digital marketing, selling products online, especially in the internet space where anyone can step in, as opposed to the local. If you're in the local business area where maybe you have a brick and mortar business, you're not competing against everybody in the world. If you're on the internet, you're competing against literally everything else that is on the internet. You need to master something, and this can apply actually offline as well, depending on the subjectivity of what you're doing, depending on exactly where you're at in life and where you're going. But I'm suggesting this to anyone who's listening. You want to master something. You want to get to the master level of something. So first of all, let's get a definition of what it means to master. Master means having or showing very great skill or proficiency. Being the best or being one of the best at something, at least in your area. Maybe you could be the best in your city, or the best in your town, or the best on your block, or the best in the best in the industry, or the best of the whole world. Mastering something. Today I'm going to sell you on the idea of why you would want to master something in your life. What are the benefits that you can get from mastering something and being that person that you can say, hey, I am the best that there is in this, or at least have a claim to be able to say that you're one of the best, even if somebody else disagrees with you. Why you want to master something? Point number one, today's topic once again, why you want to master something in your life. Number one, masters and experts get paid the most. Now listen, I understand that not everybody is 100% driven by money. Money is not the main thing for everybody, but we can agree on a few things. We can agree that everyone needs a certain amount of money to live. And we also can agree that most people, I very rarely do I hear a person complain about having too much money. So when you're the person who is the master of what you do, not only do you get paid the most, you are able to command the highest prices and fees for what you do. And prices and fees don't necessarily have to be dollar amounts. A price and fee could just be what you can demand from other people when you want something. For example, if someone says, hey, I want you to come in, give me a at-home chiropractic session. I want you to come and fix my back, but I don't want to come into your office. I want you to come to me. Now you could tell them, okay, I'll come to you, but you got to pay for my plane ticket because I'm in New York and you're in LA. It got to be a first class ticket. You got to put me up in the Ritz-Carlton, nicest hotel that is in town. You got to pay for all of my food, and I need all my money paid up front now before I even get on the plane. When you're the master of what you do, when you're the best at what you do, you can make those kind of demands, and people have to respect those demands. So when I say prices and fees, again, that's not just about money. This is about what you can command of other people. You can make that demand because you are at that level of performance, or at least you are perceived as being at that level of performance. You can name your own price. That's exactly what it means to be a master. The business and opportunity, when you're a master of what you do, when you are the best or looked at as one of the best at what you do, the opportunity comes to you instead of you having to always go to it. Maybe you'll even get to the point where all the opportunities that you see that cross your desk are coming to you. You don't have to go and make those opportunities happen. Opportunities are making themselves available to you to the point that you get to choose amongst all the opportunities. How would you like to be in that space? Maybe you've been in that space at some point in your life in something that you do where you were so good, at least at that point, that you had a whole bunch of offers. Sometimes when I'm looking on social media, I'll see ESPN will post something about an athlete in basketball or football saying, well, this athlete, and I haven't heard of them because I don't follow high school sports, but this apparently well-known high school athlete, they're going to announce today what school they're going to go to, and they're choosing between, it could be a football player, so they're choosing between Clemson and Duke and Florida State and Alabama and USC and Michigan and Penn State and Florida. They got offers from all of these places. So they are so good. They're recognized as one of the best at what they do, to the level that they don't have to go and make an opportunity and get a college to want to be interested in them. They got so many different colleges interested that they get to choose which one they're going to deal with. And that's what happens when you get to the mastery level at something, or at least, again, if you are looked at as being at the mastery level. Hey, maybe you're really not at that level, but you're able to get people to think you are. And I don't know, I'm not going to teach you how to make people think that, but how about you actually get there so it's real, something real behind it, so you can capitalize on that opportunity once you get it. You can name your own price. There is another way of looking at this. Mastering things. We're still on point number 1 here. The topic again, why you need to master something in life. Another way of looking at it is why you want to master something as opposed to being a generalist at what you do. Now, we know that when it comes to being a jack of all trades in the things that you do, when you know multiple things and you're pretty skilled in several areas, people used to talk about that as if it was some kind of mistake. You're doing something wrong by not mastering one specific thing. That's not necessarily true, because it depends. When you're a jack of all trades, it depends on what those trades you're a jack of. It depends on what all trades you are a jack of, as to whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea to be a jack of all trades. However, there is another side to this. What I'm talking about here today specifically is mastering something, because as one of the things that gets said in the marketing world, when you're a chiropractor, someone's back is hurt, they rather call the chiropractor and pay the chiropractor $100 a session than go see the general practitioner for $15 a session, simply because the chiropractor specializes in the specific need and the specific pain that individual is having at that point. So when you know acutely what your problem is, you probably want to go to someone who focuses on fixing that specific problem, rather than going to someone who could generally maybe figure out what is going on and generally maybe be able to do something about it. And I talked about in masterclass number 915, the only 3 ways anyone ever earns money in life. Level 1 is you accept what is offered you. Level 2, you negotiate between you and whoever's making an offer. And level 3 is where you demand it, and people either meet what you're asking for or they walk away. If you want to get to level 3, where you can tell people what they have to give you to get any of your time, attention, or focus, the only way you can do that is by being a master of something. You have to be so good at something that everybody knows you as that guy or that girl for that thing. And you could even be the master at being a jack of all trades in a specific area. So you can be a niche generalist. So not just a generalist, period. You know a little bit about plumbing, and then you know electricity, and then you know podcasting, and then you know football, and you played a little bit of basketball, and you know how to rearrange furniture, and you know how to you're an average interior designer. I'm not talking about being a generalist just of random stuff. If you could be a generalist in a specific area, you could be a generalist when it comes to Instagram, and you could just help people build up their Instagram, because you know every aspect of the application and all the different things that people need to do to build up their platform. So you could be a generalist in a specific niche. You could be a generalist in a sport like football, for example, at least in college football. It doesn't happen as much in the pros, but in college football, you have players who get recruited, and then you look at their position. I see this sometimes. It says athlete. Their position is just athlete. So they're not a specific position. They're not a running back, a quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back, kick returner. They may probably do all of those roles. They probably have all of those roles. In high school, a lot of players do that. And then in college, they will get more specific. But there are some athletes who are such great athletes that even at the college level, they still get to be that athlete doing a whole lot of different things and not having to niche down. So you can be a jack of all trades in a specific niche, and you can be the master at that. You're like the person who knows everything about Facebook, or knows everything about training a basketball player who's undersized, or knows everything about why somebody needs to drink more water, or knows everything about the paleo diet. So you can be a generalist in one way, but a master generalist within a niche, if you can figure that out. Point number 2. Today's topic is why you need to master something in life. When you master things, you develop the confidence that you can master something if you give it proper focus, time, attention, and energy. And once you have developed the confidence that you know you can master and dominate something, that energy will bleed over into other areas of your life. You will be so confident with your mastery of this one area that even other areas of life that you approach, even if you're not going to get to the mastery level in other areas, because you're probably not going to be a master at everything. All right, usually if someone's a master or something, it's usually one specific thing, and maybe there are some symbiotic skills that can go along with it that you might not be a master at, but you might be very good, maybe even great. But the mastery level usually is going to be limited to one specific thing, because it takes a whole lot of attention, it takes a whole lot of time and energy to master something. But once you do master something, that confidence will spread to all of your life and other areas and other things that you do, even things that you may not be that great at, simply because you know that when you put your full focus and all of your key resources that we talked about in masterclass number 609, time, money, attention, energy, focus, when you put those resources into the things that you are doing, you know you can produce a result. Into the things that are most important for you to be doing, like those things that you're mastering, you know you can produce a result. Now you have a level of confidence that you carry yourself with that, again, it just applies to everything you do. And from the outside looking in, we look at other people who have done this. Some of you have heard the phrase the halo effect. That's what this is. This is the halo effect as it applies to you. So the halo effect, let's see if I can, an example could be any person who has reached a high level of success in one specific thing. I was recently watching an interview of boxer Floyd Mayweather. And if you don't know who Floyd is, he, as of this recording, is a retired boxer, recently retired boxer who went 50-0. He fought in 50 fights in his boxing career, and he won all 50 fights. And he labeled himself the best ever, and he never got beaten, and he won a lot of championships, had all his championship belts. So he has a claim to it. Even if you're not a fan of Floyd, you think somebody's better, he has a claim to it because nobody ever beat him. So that alone does give him a claim to it. And the halo effect works with Floyd. Floyd was a great boxer, but he seems, wherever I see him or hear him talking, he seems to carry himself with a certain level of confidence that it appears to me, again, I don't know Floyd, but it appears to me that that confidence carries over from the success he had in boxing. That's the one thing that he's mastered, which is boxing. But he carries that confidence with him over into other things that he does, with the way that he talks about himself, the way he deals with other people, the things that he does business-wise, whatever they happen to be. When I hear him talk about these things, I can tell that this guy has a high level of confidence, even though I know the one thing that he mastered was boxing. He didn't master any of those other things, but he mastered boxing, and that is the confidence that carries over to other things that you do. And I've heard other people who are, at least people who are publicly noted for being successful, 50 Cent's another one, I've heard talk about things like that, that when you know that you can focus on something and make it a success, then you stop seeing so many limits to yourself, and you see yourself as, you know what, I could do this in something else. I could do it in something else. Now I can do it in something else. And then every time that it works, what happens? Your confidence gets even bigger. So you borrow a certain amount of confidence from this one thing that you've mastered and bring it over here to this thing that you haven't quite mastered yet. And then when that thing works, oh, you're like, oh, I could do this again. Oh, now you borrow a little bit of confidence from that thing, and you take it to the next thing. And every time the thing works, your confidence gets that much bigger and that much bigger. So every time you borrow confidence, you're borrowing a higher level of confidence to the point that you kind of become a human success machine. All of us can do this. But it starts with you deciding, because that's what today's topic is, why you need to master something. I'm just selling you on the idea. So any of you who hasn't mastered something, or maybe you think you're really good at something, but you know you haven't quite mastered it, if you're being honest with yourself, this is one of the reasons why you will master it. In the book, actually before I get to the book, when we're talking about developing confidence, many people never master anything because they can't summon the necessary discipline to stick to anything long enough to get some real results. Let me repeat that. Many people never master anything because they cannot summon the necessary discipline to stick to anything long enough to get real results. Understand that mastering something does take time. This is why I said usually you won't find a person who has mastered more than one thing, because you have to put all of your resources into mastering just one thing, and by the time you get that one down, and you still got to put some focus in it to keep that level of mastery up, you won't be able to master more than one thing at the same time. It's like chasing those two rabbits, like we talked about a couple days ago. So you got to decide and be clear about what exactly you're going to master. We're going to talk about that a little bit in a future masterclass. We'll get to that in a moment. In the book, The 50th Law, by Robert Greene and 50 Cent, Chapter 8 is called Mastery, Respect the Process. That chapter actually led to the book Mastery by Robert Greene, which is might be the longest book Robert Greene wrote. I'm not sure if it's the longest, but it's a very long book, the book Mastery by Robert Greene. And you should read that if you're trying to figure out what you're going to master in life. You know now that since you have mastered something, you know that you can conquer something else. You know you can conquer the next thing. You know you can conquer the next thing. And it builds up your self-efficacy. And Albert Bandura, who is the psychologist who is credited with coming up with this whole concept of self-efficacy, he defined it thusly: how well one can execute courses of action required to deal with prospective situations. So if you want to build up your self-efficacy, which is basically your belief in your ability to handle things and do things and achieve things, you build that up by mastering one thing, and then you can, that halo effect starts to apply to you. You can borrow that energy, that confidence, and apply it to this thing over here. Then apply that same confidence to something else, and apply that confidence to something else. And because you have such a high level of confidence, things will seem to just work in your favor more often because your confidence is higher. This is just the way confidence works. The higher your level of belief, the easier things seem to go, the more things seem to break in your favor, the more it seems like life is conspiring to work and make things work for you simply because you believe things are going to work for you. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is another reason why you need to master something. Point number 3. Today's topic is why you need to master something in your life. The principles of mastery. This is point number 3. These principles apply universally to other areas of life. In other words, in my book, Work on Your Game, not the show, but the book, I share the frameworks that I used in basketball to get from sitting at the end of my high school bench to becoming a professional player within 5 years. And then I told you how I took those same frameworks and applied them into the business world. And then I applied them into other things. And once you put your mind and body into dominating a topic, into figuring it out, into mastering it, getting to the top 1%, becoming one of the best at what you do, you will realize that these same concepts, or maybe you won't realize it, but if you think about it, and I'm telling you, so you don't even have to realize it because I'm telling you, the same concepts that you use to master the first thing, many of those same concepts, the framework of how you did it, will apply to something else in life. So the same process that I use for making it as a basketball player, I use that same process in the business world. It is not an exact science. It's not colored by numbers or do the exact same thing because industries are different and the world changes and people change and times change. But the frameworks, the principles, the concepts are exactly the same. You will find many similarities. This is why you can cross industries. You can have a top athlete talking to a top business person, and you'll hear a lot of the same things. You'll hear a lot of the same mentalities, a lot of the same approaches. A person who is really great with, let's say there's a coach in sports who's really great in dealing with people, and his players all love him, and the team is very successful. And then you find someone who is a business leader, a CEO of a company, and all the employees love him, and the company is very successful. I guarantee you that sports coach and that business CEO, there will be a whole lot of similarities in their philosophy and their approach and the way that they do things. That is not random happenstance. That is because the principles, the frameworks, and the concepts are universal. When you become successful, when you master something, when you get to the highest level of something, you can take those same mentalities and you can apply it to something else. Now, I want to give you a disclaimer that does not mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that the second time, let's say if you master being a sports coach, then you want to become a business CEO. Doesn't mean that after you put in 20 years of sports coaching, that you're going to become a business CEO in 20 weeks. You still got to put the time in. You still got to learn the game. You still got to learn the ropes. You still got to pay your dues. You still got to do all those things, but the frameworks do work. So the same way you put 20 years into sports, you might need to put 20 years into business, but it will work as long as you have the discipline to stick to the process, like Robert Greene and 50 Cent talk about in chapter 8 of the 50th Law. Sticking to the process, respecting the process, that's how you master things. So don't think there's going to be a shortcut just because you master something else over here. Then when you go over there, everything's just going to work out and the heavens are going to part for you. Everybody's going to move out of your way. No, that is not how it works, but it does work. All right, make sure you're just not expecting the shortcut. So let's recap today's class, which is why you need to master something in your life. Mastering something means having or showing very great skill or proficiency. We're talking about being the best of the best at something, at least in best of the best there is at something, at least in your specific area. Number 1, masters and experts get paid the most. They can command the highest fees. They put themselves in a demanding position. They don't need to negotiate. They don't need to accept anything. They tell everyone else what they want in order to get my intellectual property and to get my presence and to get my work this is what you have to give, and they usually get it simply because they are seen as the best of the best and people want to pay for the best. Point number 2, you develop the confidence that you can master something with the proper focus, which bleeds into other areas of life. Knowing that you can do it, now you know that you take the same focus that you applied to the first thing, you apply it to the next thing, you can get the same result. But make sure you don't shortchange yourself by expecting a shortcut. And number 3, the principles of mastery apply universally to other areas. In my book, Work on Your Game, I give you the framework that I use first in sports and then use in business, and then I'm explaining to you how you use the framework. So once you put your mind and body into dominating a topic and you actually successfully do so, you realize, or hopefully you'll realize, those same concepts will work for anything else. It is not always an exact science like color by numbers, but the principles, the overall frameworks of what you're doing to master one area will work to master other areas. You just have to recognize it, and then you got to do the work to utilize it. Work on your game. Oh yeah, tomorrow we're gonna talk about how you actually do this. I told you why. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about how. I'm not gonna leave you hanging. Work on your game. Dre all day.